Here's something I wish I had when I first started collecting vintage computers and video game consoles. It's a simple device which can function as an RF demodulator to take the output of any system which only has an RF output, like this top loader Nintendo. You can plug it into the antenna jack, tune it into channel 3 or 4, and you get a composite video output and stereo audio output, which you can connect to any monitor or video capture device or HDMI upscaler. And the quality is actually really good. Much better than the quality of my playing of this game. It's called the V-Tune Pro by Aurora Multimedia. It's a discontinued item, but I've seen them on eBay for as low as $10, and I got this one at a thrift store for even less than that. It has an FM radio tuner, which works fine. Adjustable volume control. And if you switch it over to TV, it's a full cable-ready analog TV tuner. 125 channels. On the back there's the TV input, the FM radio input, composite video output, stereo left and right audio outputs, 12 volt DC power supply input. It's a standard center positive barrel connector, and it has RS-232 control and a loop, so you can control this through a serial port. And you may see this connector and think it's the same kind of serial port that older Macintosh computers used, but here's a Mac serial cable, and you can see the number of pins is different. They're not compatible. Instead, this is the same kind of connector that is used for PS2 keyboards and mice, but the connector is the only thing they have in common, otherwise it's totally incompatible. This originally would have come with the cable to convert this to a standard 9-pin serial port, but if you buy one of these and you don't get that cable with it, you need an adapter like this, which converts that PS2 style connector to a standard 9-pin serial port. Although you can see a couple of the pins are not used because it really only needs ground, transmit, and receive to communicate. And this loop connector was designed to control multiple of these units through one serial port for industrial applications. Here's the sticker on the bottom. Is the V-Tune Pro RS-232 controllable TV FM tuner made in the USA. And this company is still in business. They followed this up with an HD version, which also still has an analog TV tuner and has HDMI and component outputs, and even a 4K version, which again also has an analog TV tuner and HDMI output. Here's a look inside. The board has a copyright date of 2003. This one has revision 2H, and it was made in 2005. The TV and FM tuner module was made by Philips. One disadvantage for you cross-pond collectors is that if you get the American version of this, it's only NTSC, and if you get the international version, it's only PAL. However, the international version does have variable frequency tuning, so you can account for the different channel alignments of the various different countries. And it does have closed caption decoding. The other main chip on the board was also made by Philips. And this chip was made by Zilog, so it's a perfect match for use of a computer which has a Z80 CPU. It did originally come with a remote control, but for our purpose it's not necessary for the operation of the device. It does have upgradable firmware, however I don't know if the company still provides it because I couldn't find any reference to it on their website. But you can at least download the manual for it. Next, I'll give you some direct video capture of its output, first of a comparison between this original Nintendo Switch box and one of these adapters to see which one gives you better quality. This is the sample using the original Nintendo Switch box. The video quality looks perfect, no interference. If you didn't know any better, you'd probably think this was from a Nintendo that had a direct composite video output. And I'm using a Sony Mini DV Handycam to record this video capture. using the little adapter instead of the switch box, the video quality looks identical, but there's a slight whine in the audio. Here's another vintage system which only has an RF output. It's the Radio Shack TRS-80 Color Computer 2. And unlike the Nintendo, which puts out a nice, strong, clear signal, the signal coming out of this one is a bit weaker and usually does have some visible interference, even with the best connection. So we'll see how good or bad it is with the VTune Pro, and I'm using an original Atari RF switch box. As expected with the Coco, there is some slight fuzziness in the video image, but this is much better quality than I've ever seen on a real television connected to this computer. I know people are going to recommend that I modify these systems to add video and audio outputs. But the thing is, for each of these systems, there's usually several different versions of those modifications, and which one works best often depends on the individual unit, with the various production and component changes that were done over the years. So there's no one-size-fits-all solution for each of these systems. Plus, the value of these systems keeps increasing, and one big factor in determining that value is the originality of the system. And just like with classic cars, no matter how good you think your modifications are that you've done to it, they'll probably end up reducing its resale value rather than increasing it. So I'm not going to be cutting circuit traces and removing components and cutting holes in the case to add a video and audio output to these systems, especially when better alternatives already exist, such as different versions of these systems which already have video and audio outputs on them. So that's why I'm glad to have discovered this VTune Pro, so I can get good quality direct video capture from these old systems without needing to modify them and without needing to rig up something like a VCR, which would take up a lot more space. As for that serial port connection, I tried, but I was not able to get it to work. I have that adapter and this null modem cable connected. As directed in the manual, I set it to 9600 baud, 8 data bits, no parity, 1 stop bit, and I'm not getting any response from it either through the terminal or on the device itself. It's not really worth any more of my time trying to figure it out, because for the purposes I or any of my viewers would use one of these for, the serial port connection is not necessary. But if you want to try to figure it out, it has the pinout and all the commands listed in the manual. So that's the VTune Pro by Aurora Multimedia, a piece of commercial grade equipment that was probably very expensive when it was new, but now that analog TV is considered to be obsolete, used ones are starting to be very inexpensive and I think worth picking up and putting to use for the applications I showed in this video. And just in case anybody cares, a brief sample of the quality of its FM radio tuner.
Well, didn't you feel compelled as a social human to just offer some kind of gestural explanation? I mean, with me, I would have made some look like, I don't eat that stuff,
or maybe it's like you take the penguin at that point. You're like,
well, I mean, I
when
couldn't
in
touch
Rome,
the penguin swimming 15 miles an hour, you know.
Oh, so you mean when she lets go, it just goes phew.